And welcome, everybody, to a brand new episode of Crush This, the Monster Truck Podcast. My name is Bradshaw, also known as the only Monster Truck Canucker. And, yep, the Oilers lost. The Panthers beat us. But you know what? I'm still damn proud to be an Oilers fan. We came back from being dead last in the NHL standings at one point to forcing a Game 7 when we were three down. So I'm still proud of them. And, just want to thank everybody for the support. Thank you to J Concepts. We have a code with J Concepts. Check it out. It's code Crush This at jconcepts.net for 15% off all items. Cheech is actually rocking a J Concepts shirt today. Our Cheech is sponsored by them. Josh Rhodes, so many other of our buddies at Race RCs are sponsored by J Concepts, and the Crush This podcast is sponsored by J Concepts as well. Check out Monster Truck Attitude on Facebook and YouTube, Thursday Night Thunder, and the wild card event is coming up. It is diecast Monster Truck Racing that our buddy Steve Jones puts on, and me and Cheech are going round 1 in the wild card this weekend. So that Bigfoot bad boy is going to take out that big bad Ram this weekend. So check that out. Also check out Bryce Kenny's book, Geared for Life. Me and Cheech have both read it. It's a great book. Check that out. Bryce is a great dude. We hope to have him on again. Another cool thing, check out Colvinard's organization, limslikeme.org. We had Cole on a couple weeks ago. If you want more information about that, check that out. And so our guest on today's show is the one and only Chad Tinger, guys. Chad is a legend in the industry. We're going to ask him all about, how he got into the sport. Definitely going to be talking about World Finals 9 and that awesome triple jump and so much more. And we're also going to recap Monsters and Megas, where Mr. Dan Agosh made his debut for that event in his hometown, or about 20 minutes out of his hometown. And it's going to be an awesome, awesome show, guys. We're going to play our intro from Back Channel Productions, and then MTRC with Colby Marshall made our awesome intro. And we're going to get into it, guys. So stay tuned and buckle your seatbelts, because this one's going to be a good one.
This isn't your typical motorsports podcast. You're listening to Crush This, a monster truck podcast presented by High Octane Coffee and J Concepts. A show where we take you inside the minds of your favorite drivers, past and present, of the monster truck industry. And now, your hosts, Bradshaw and Dan Chichagosh. Buckle in. The show starts now.
What's happening, guys, on another episode of Crush This, a Monster Truck Podcast? We already got people already talking crap on you, Brad, saying, let's go Panthers. Already seen that.
They outplayed us.
Rough.
They outplayed us, but I'll give them their props.
They always say there's always next year, so.
That's an understatement.
There's always been teams that make it back-to-back Stanley Cups, so that anything can be possible. But I also want to say thank you for the 5-star likes and reviews on iTunes and Spotify when you guys listen to this podcast. Also, we're on Instagram too, so we're live on Instagram. So if you will follow us on Facebook and have an Instagram, please like us on Instagram too, so you have a chance to watch that also. And we're also on Twitch, so all the people that probably watch it from India probably watch it from Twitch or something like that. I don't know who watches it on our Twitch, but thanks for watching that. I think it's mostly for Brad and what him and his brother does and stuff like that. But still, that's a social media based stuff, so it's all right. And also, go did we shout out to our spread shop? Go get some
Not
t-shirts at
yet,
our
right
spread
here.
shop. And then we still have our hoodies and crew shirts, the OG and the
Retro Wave.
Retro Wave. Just message me or Brad, and then we can get that all transferred over to you, and you'll still have those cool hoodies and crew shirts, just like you see your favorite monster truck drivers, monster jam drivers, all sorts of different people around the world. So once again, thank you for all that. But yeah, man, I guess we'll talk later on after the show about my fun time in good old Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. But we got a person that I knew when I was working for Monster Jam, and knew him pretty good this year too while he was driving the Overboard Monster Jam truck for the Arena Series East Tour, and that's Mr. Chad Tingler. How you doing, sir?
Hey, not too bad. How about you, buddy?
All good, good, good.
Yeah.
Do good. That's what Brad has is on his hat. Do good. It looks like you look like that guy. You need that cigar that looks like that golfer
Oh
that always has
yeah.
the meme saying
It's the shirt. It's the Dixon shirt that I got recently. It just, I don't know.
it looks like you just came back from the golf club. Golfing, just came back from there. Doesn't he, Chad? It looks like you just came back from golfing.
Yeah.
I don't golf though. Pardon my friends. There's a reason why my dad's always called golf. Yeah, we're gonna go play around and whack shit because that's all you do.
Yeah. I can only hit it off the tee. After that, I always hit worm burners. They stay on the ground. They never leave the ground.
Well, I have a story which was pretty funny. It was 2017 Arena Tour. It was kind of I always did a golfing drive range like Top Golf or go to the range. Well,
Yeah.
Chad and two others, Fitch and another guy. We I think Tyson. We all went golfing in Kansas City. First time I ever went golfing, but it was mostly driving golf carts and just having a good time. Pretty much we were lawn skeepers, chipping more green than we were chipping the ball, and half the time we lost the ball. But I think we only did 9 holes, didn't we?
I think so. I think I had to buy a shirt at the golf club too or something. I don't remember, but yeah.
Yeah, that was a good time about that one. But let's go back to when you first started. Were you always a fan of monster trucks, and how did you get involved with the world of monster trucks in general?
Yeah, I live here in Stewart-Straff, which is Fishersville, Virginia. Is pretty rich in history with some of the the tractor pulling, and there's video of Dennis being here back in the day, and and all the foot trucks and Dennis being here, and of course Porter took it over after that back in the days. But yeah, I've always went to there. Always grew up being around trucks and and the lifted trucks back when I was born in the 80s, when all that big tire stuff and things were starting to come about. But yeah, and then I started doing some show truck things and stuff like that. And a friend of mine had a really pretty awesome show truck. He always went to the special event shows, and was a Pro Ranger, totally 4-linked and things like that. So I would go with him to do shows, and then he started promoting his own shows and things. And so we kind of, I kind of befriended, Dan Runney and those guys, and Eric Tack back in the day when Pro MT started. The guys that were special events, they started their own deal with some NASCAR stuff, and and the Bigfoot Hall brothers and Patrick, all the MTRA guys did their own thing with the truck expo stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we ran the show truck part of it. So that gave me even more foot in the door of, knowing those guys and talking with Ronnie and hanging out, afterwards to trailers and stuff like that, just having a good time. And then, Randy Brown was part of that. Of course, Randy Brown didn't have his license quite at the time to run with those guys, because you had to have your MTRA license to run with them. And so Gary Porter was driving his Pure Adrenaline truck for him till he got his license. But the second year, I think, of Pro MT, when Randy got him, and he was at Daytona International Speedway, and we were there, and he showed up, and it was just him tiring up. And I said, "Dude, what happened to your crew guy?" He said, "Man, didn't show up at the house when I was leaving. I had to go." So then I messaged him off his website, off the back of his tailgate, and he was doing a show here in Roanoke, Virginia, about an hour south down 81. And so I drove a old Ford Tempo I had. It had multicolored fenders on it and different color hood, and drove it down there. And Randy had a high-tech trailer, with the living quarters in it. And, I'd never been around and, done that kind of stuff and worked with him before. But Tom Mintz was there with his truck. It was Jim Kohler. Let's see, Chris Bergeron. Rick Disharoon was there. I don't think his wife at the time had her truck. I can't remember what the other ones were. But I do remember that and staying and helping Randy. And he had broken axle that very first night there. I'm like, I don't know anything to help, whatever. So we took it apart and we go to test it. And of course, the lockers broke. So we had to take it back apart and work on it. But that's how I got started, and then Randy had some shows down around Richmond, Virginia, which is not too far from me, and just kind of helped him. And, it just came that, to where I was going down to his apartment, sleeping on his couch at the apartment that he was at the time, sleeping on his couch and getting up and just starting to work on things.
How was it being around kind of that era, of the, special events, the jamborees and even the truck expo stuff? Because there is footage of the Pro MT stuff, but it's kind of spotty sometimes. How was it being in that era? Because I feel like that time in the sport, it was such a cool era to be around.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, the special event shows when we used to go, those shows were insane, especially Bloomsburg. Went to Bloomsburg more than anything. Most of the guys around my area went to the Bloomsburg deal. When I got into judging the show trucks and things with my buddy, we did pretty much all of them. We did Indy, Lima, and things I got to see them, but there was nothing like going to Bloomsburg. The four-wheel drive trucks and the people, going downtown and, for the parade and the cruise, and just seeing the monster trucks there, and just in general, it would fill the grandstands. I think they had like 5 shows, I guess, every weekend, 5 shows that weekend there, having 2 or 3 a thing, and they were packed. People were just, it was just crazy, I think I was there the year that I don't hold me to this, and Cheech, you can probably do this. Maybe some of the people watching might know that, but I'm pretty sure that Tom drove for Dennis at one of those special events in Bloomsburg, because Dennis was coming back from an injury.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Tom actually drove a gravedigger truck for him there, if I'm not mistaken, at one of them.
I think it was 2000.
Yeah.
He also drove Digger 12 at Englishtown
Okay.
no, it was 99.
Yeah, 99. I'm just trying to find it right now.
Yeah.
He drove Gravedigger also in Englishtown Speedway, and he did that show too. But I mean, the cool thing about this year is they're bringing back a new guard. Old guard bought special events. Now it's just called events, I think. But they're coming back full swing, and hopefully get the ball back and rolling and get back to the glory days of, the monster trucks and stuff like that. So we're excited about that's going to be 2 weeks from now. I think 3 weeks from now. I think it's the 12th through the 14th of July. It's the 4-wheel drive jamboree in Bloomsburg, so that's gonna be pretty cool. So you did the jamboree, you helped out with Randy, but how did you get yourself into the company world?
Well, that was kind of weird, So I helped with Randy, with his pure adrenaline truck for, mainly that part of the time. And then he ended up having to fly out to Indy, I think, to help drive. I think Chad Reed was with Tony Farrell at the time to take their rig out to the World Finals. Then it wasn't long after that he ended up getting a call, being able to do a gravedigger deal for those, with the company. So, and then of course he had to have somebody to do his pure adrenaline stuff. So, Frank Krimmel was, had been, training and doing some things with Kohlers and stuff like that. So he got, so that was, going to be Randy's other driver, which left me. I was the only crew guy with 2 trucks at the time. We had, Randy's digger and then a pure adrenaline truck with the trailer to get ready. and everything, for that. And, Randy's digger was supposed to have been delivered like almost like a month before first quarter leaving. It never showed up, never showed up. We ended up our first show was in Des Moines, Iowa. We ended up going to Dan Patrick's shop on the way to our show and pulled in, I think, on like that Tuesday or something like that. And Randy's digger truck is sitting there with no motor, no anything. And we got a show that weekend. We're like, okay. So it's pouring down snow. We helped get it together, just push it in the trailer, drag it out, and do a show with it. First things first. But so yeah, just crewing for them the whole first quarter was, that was fun, by myself with that and helping. So then they come, doing some summertime shows for Randy, and then I tried to do a little bit of show. I did a couple shows with him for that. I think the first show I ever did was Fort Smith, Arkansas. Was inside that tiny little horse arena there in Fort Smith, Arkansas. And I was like, okay. Randy's like, you nervous? I was like, honestly, I'm not. He's like, what? Wait a minute, you're not nervous? I was like, no, I'm really not. David Smith helped me out a ton there. And Brian Barthel actually come down to hang out too. And he helped me out a ton with, the driving of making sure that I stayed in the throttle, because I was nosing over really bad. Because the big thing with Randy was not to over rev those big Hemis. He run those big Fontanas and Aries Hemis is just not to over rev them. So, that always made me super nervous. So I was nosing over. And of course, nobody wore Hans's back then. My poor neck felt horrible. It's like somebody strapped a tuba for me, man. I was like turning the whole body the next day. But yeah, so that's how I guess did that. And then I did one show, I think, for Richie Schaefer. I'm thinking it was a Route 66 Speedway. I think it was. Can't remember. It's a big speedway. And then it wasn't long, like a week or so after that, we had a week off. And then Rick Disharoon happened to call Randy and it's like, hey, I need somebody to come take over my whole team. Can Chad do that? And I was like, what do you mean? Like, just drive? He's like, no. He was, going through a situation with his first wife at the time, and Ryan and them were just like super young. They were like little kids. I think me and Ryan talked about this. He was like 10 at the time. And Rick's like, no, I need you just to come take my rig, take my truck, and do my full summer schedule up into Canada, over into Nova Scotia, like everywhere. Like, I need you to come finish, put my truck together and take it. I'm like, okay. So I only had like a learner's CDL at the time too, doing that. So I was like, okay, our first show is Bangor, Maine. And then after that, and Randy's like, well, I'm doing the same schedule as he is, and Carl's there helping at the time. He had just had left Pablo. And so Carl was going to drive Adrenaline. So it helped, me with that factor. Carl drove the rig across the border and helped me do some things. But yeah, and that's the thing. I went up and me and Ryan still talk about it. I went up to Rick Disharoon's place and I slept on the top bunk and Ryan slept on the bottom bunk of his bedroom. And I went there and put a truck together and motor and everything like that. And went to Bangor, Maine for the first show and ended up being in the finals against Randy Brown and won the first race in the racing finals against Randy in his truck. And, so that's kind of how I just fell into doing that kind of stuff with it. So,
what boggles my mind is the story about, Randy's truck's not getting delivered. You guys pick it up, finish it, and go to the show. That'd be insane to first show, new truck, no test time, just go right into it. Like, I couldn't imagine that.
Yeah, and it was pouring out snow. It was a blizzard at Patrick's too, and we pushed it in the trailer in the pouring out snow and drove in the snow all the way to Des Moines, Iowa. And we had to drag it out of the trailer, warm everything up. It had never had the tires on it. It had only been started and ran in Dan's shop at the time. And it's crazy. I think we even talk. I haven't seen Dan in years, man. And it's like, I think we still talk about, he struggled with figuring out how to get a digger door to open. He had about the hinge, having to have the circle, and he had this elaborate kind of thing. And it's like, we just got to go and just put it on. And we left. And Yeah, it was it was crazy. We went to Jimmy Cretin's a lot because we had a lot of shows out there and getting things figured out with it, and just different things. But yeah, that's just how it went.
So before we continue on talking and stuff like that, I want to thank our sponsor, Making Tracks, Justin Stories, and his book. You can get it at Amazon, Facebook. Just message him, $10 a pop. Also, it's on the audio too. But also MW1 Entertainment, Mark Warner, monster truck announcer. He's getting back in gear in the summertime, and hopefully we'll hear him here soon. Speedy recovery there, Mark, and everything you do. So you come around and you work with dish runes and stuff like that, and then how did you so then you how did you start transitioning from the, I guess you would say, independent life to the company life? A lot of people talk about how a lot of fans mention seeing you filling in for Dennis when he got injured in Minneapolis that one year, and rocking the house in Minneapolis in Gravedigger 20. But you were still doing monster trucks, I mean, with Monster Jam before that. And what caught what did caught Dennis's eye in you the drive his flagship truck?
Yeah, so then after Rick's, I went on to Brian Bartels and did a whole first quarter with him, and then Randy sold his pure adrenaline truck when I went back to Randy's, and I kind of didn't really have a ride after that. Company didn't know if they was going to give him anything of that sort. So, Mike Wells that gave me a call and told me, he said, "Hey, are you interested to come working for us? We have this deal with Warner Brothers to do a Tasmanian double. Would that be something you'd be interested in? Come with us." He talked to Randy first to make sure everything was good, and he's like, "Yeah, that's fine. If he's moving his career forward, that's he's was good with it." So when I got there, I think it was 2004ish, something like that. Then I think there was a dispute with Warner Brothers about the design or something of that sort. So Taz didn't come about, but they had just had signed on the Safe Auto insurance company. So that's what I ended up with at first. And me and Carl Van Horn were paired together. We were teammates with what we had. And so then it was me and Carl in the rig together. So that's how my first year with the company started out, is going in there with that kind of thing. And, me and Carl would always travel the road together, and we had some good times, together. We had a lot of late nights and a lot of hard work. There's many a times, man, we've seen the sun come up and go to the hotel, take a shower, and just get in a rig and have to go to the next venue. That's just the crazy part of what we used to have to do. We'd go coast to coast every weekend. It wasn't a really planned routing thing. It didn't seem like. But so, yeah, and then I ended up doing the Safe Auto thing for a few years, and then Carl had quit for some family issues that he had going on, and Mike Wells had called me and said, "Hey, we want you to take over the Gravedigger job, the deal." I was like, "I'm good. I'll stay where I'm at for now." He's like, "Well, what do you mean?" I was like, I didn't really want the job at the time because I didn't feel like being a driver for a year and a half, per se, I guess, that I really earned. For me, I like to feel like I've earned my keep into what I've gotten to. And I didn't really feel like that I had earned my position to represent a name of that statue. You know what I mean? That's a lot of pressure to that name. Nobody still to this day has any idea what that is unless you've been behind the wheel of that thing. But and me and Mike Wells, we had that. I was like, nope, I'm good. I was quitting, completely. I wanted to stay where I was at, because I knew I was going to be able to go to the World Finals and compete in Safe Auto. I knew that was going to happen that year. I wanted to be able to give myself that opportunity to learn and do more things before I would take that next step. It's not that I didn't want it, didn't appreciate it. It's just that I didn't know if I had quite earned that that yet, so we talked, and I took the, got in the seat of that, and Dennis always around the shop area there, and he talked to me a little bit. And so, we got, I got in that deal, and turned out to be, a great decision for me. I enjoyed that truck. I enjoyed representing that name for the time that I did it. But like I said, man, people have no idea the pressure that these guys carry. It's crazy,
So I was checking it's somewhat of a good source, but the Monster Truck Wiki, and I just counted, and in your career so far, it says you have driven 22 different trucks and different names throughout your career. And like you've had a long lasting career, and also in the World Finals. You in the World Finals you've always done very well at that event, especially freestyle in 2009. And that leads into my next question. You were able to drive Monster Mutt Dalmatian at 2 different World Finals, and in World Finals 9. And I was talking with a friend earlier, and he wanted me to ask you this question: that triple jump, was that something that you had planned, during your freestyle run, or was that kind of like a, hey, might as well just try it?
No, I had it planned. The first year I drove that Dalmatian truck, yeah, I tanked like first hit, I think, because people don't realize that truck only had 20-inch shocks, travel shocks on the front of it, and 26s in the back. So it did not land very well, especially not to do World Finals stuff whatsoever. But first being out, I knew I was going to do that. I knew it was going to happen. We were changing. Made the crew guy at the time change the gears in the transfer case at the last minute, and I was getting yelled at. I think by Keith Speller, you got to get to the line, you got to go to stage, and he's squirting gear oil in a transfer case at the time because I had to make a gear change to get down there because that truck didn't really quite have the power that I was used to in my digger truck. So it's like, yeah, you got to change it. I'm never going to make it. And so I went into it knowing I was going to do it, but I went kind of nervous to it as well because after the first jump that I did, and I made the turn to the back of that big box van, my first jump, my seatbelts come unhooked. So that's the only reason why I stopped at the back of that van and turned the tongue on, is I'm scrambling, trying to hook all my seatbelts back up and tighten them down and make sure that they're not going to come unhook again, kind of thing. So then it's kind of like, oh, please don't let them come unhook. Please don't let them come unhook. But yeah, it's like, yeah.
Man, it's on yearbooks and on the DVD cover, and which we're fast forwarding because I kind of a little bit want to talk a little bit about the Gravedigger lineage. For quite some time, I remember seeing you driving Gravedigger 14 a lot that Dennis had, and you kind of had the type of gravediggers that were kind of like I wouldn't say hand-me-downs, but someone else had it and then pushed the truck and then you drove it. But until that the situation in that time when you got kind of from start to finish Gravedigger 24, Digger 24, that was you had that truck from the start. No one else had that, and you had it until they had to retire that truck. So when you had the history with the Gravediggers and they gave you your kind of your own Gravedigger, that kind of bring out, because when they saw knowing that Gravedigger 24 was going to be a Dayton, Ohio, or Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, or something, like they knew you're going to be there, just like someone knew 23 was going to be Carl Van Horn's, 20 Dennis, Pablo 28, stuff like that. But for you, kind of having your face with that Gravedigger, got to be something that got to be pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm going to tell you, man, I love that Digger 14. I still miss that truck. That truck handled and rode super, super nice. 28, we had a little bit of a, we had a geometry problem with it when they got built, because I think they built Porter's, mine, and then Ryan's, son of a digger, at the same time in the shop. And, finally, we had, mine was at a 3.5-inch different shock angle than what it was supposed to be. And, had some things. We had some shock issues with trying to get it figured out. But, yeah, with it being the only one that had driven that truck, yeah, it was great to finally have something that was a piece that was mine, as far as the truck and do it. But and I always kept all of mine. Dustin Brown always got on me because I'd get back to the shop and I'd hand wash my truck, and he's out there pressure washing Simple Green, and I'd have soap in a bucket and hand washing mitt and around and being done. And then it's like, why ain't you do mine like that? He's just like, well, you want the other stuff done, or you want your hand truck washed? So, but it's yeah, it was great to have that because I ended up putting nitrogen bump stops in my Digger 14. We kind of incorporated those a little bit over and some different things, and so yeah, it was great to still have that, be a part of having my own.
Fast forward, a couple of years after that, you start. How did the deal to run with Steve Sims happen?
So I guess with the I was doing some management stuff, doing international shows, and then I was doing some of the stuff for the Cedar Fair project, that they had, and when COVID hit, things went awry for everybody. So I was just kind of here, and Steven called me, and said, hey, Dad we just had to start our own stone company. We're super busy with getting this, started and getting up, and we have a full schedule with Monster Jam. Would you be interested in doing it for us? I was like, yeah, sure. I've always known Steve Sims. I've run with Steve Sims, and shows and different events like that, and I've always got along with him great, and Steven, doing a lot of international stuff with Steven over the years and just hanging out, I was like, shoot, yeah, man, I'm in, Stone Crusher names out there. I'm be more than well helping to, happy to represent it. And, Brian Wright was doing the hook truck at the time, and, Brian was a crew guy for me at the time, and, was paired up. So it was a perfect fit for us, actually.
And then I actually am going to go back a little bit because kind of went forward, and now I'm going to bring her back realer, and not even theme monster trucks relationships. You helped out a certain situation that now have, I think, tested the change of times, where a lot of people talk about the importance of monster truck safety, and a lot of people talk about the RII, but I would say the second part of the safety way of life outside of the monster trucks is the driver's seat. The containment seat that have came full round big time because the trucks were getting tougher, the trucks were getting suspension wise. But the thing was the human body was now the question point of how tough a monster truck can be. You can jump a truck 20, 25 feet up in the air, but when you're sitting in a lazy boy chair, sooner or later the spring is going to go up your hoo-hoo. So before you know it, you're going to be in trouble. And a lot of people had back injuries and stuff like that. I know Bob, when he built Bigfoot 8 with the cantilever suspension and stuff like that, changed the game, but only certain number of trucks can handle that, and certain times people got hurt. So when we talked about it, at the beginning of the year and stuff, and I did research on how you were you were one of the forefront people that bring in the technology of the containment seat. I know Dan Rente had that for a little bit, knowing about what happened in NASCAR with the passing of Dale Earnhardt and all the drivers and stuff like that with the safety walls, with the containment seat, and then the head and neck and restraint system and stuff like that. But still, the containment seat itself was big time news in the monster truck industry. So what got you to push that into the monster truck world?
Well, too, and I was when I was talking about having the neck and stuff like that too. I had gotten a Hans device when I worked for Randy, and I think I might have been one with that. And then I remember Tony Farrell coming in and asked me, "Hey man, how's that thing working?" I was like, "It works pretty well, but we're in the wrong type of seat for that. You get down at loose. It's a Hans device works, 90% with the seat belt. Where that hybrid technology doesn't." Some of the guys, we're running a standard, what you call a drag pan, I guess. Now, I think Patrick was, it's just a Butler aluminum seat with the big foam and all that stuff in it. So, Butler was the only name that I truly really knew. We was going to Charlotte. Me and Henry Cross was, the manager of the North Carolina shop at the time, to go down and look. Trevor's his name, who had invented the hybrid and the R3 device. He was building those in his garage before he sold it, to Simpson. And I was going down there with him to look at it because, I've been a big advocate of Hans, always of Hans. So we went down to look, and I was like, well, hey, let me reach out to Butler's seat, because that's the only seat company I've ever seen, about, hey, I want to look at a containment seat. Talked to him, didn't want anything to do with me. Straight up told me, yeah, we don't want anything to do with monster trucks. I was like, man, I just want to talk to, and just straight, and that would not have nothing to do with me at all. Nothing. So then I was like, well, okay, well, there goes that, trying to move forward. Get down and was standing there talking with Trevor, and I was like, yeah, man, I really was trying to talk with, the Butler Seat Company about a containment seat. And he says, hey, this guy named Chris works at the back of BSR, runs ISP seats. He does NASCAR. He does a lot of stuff for funny cars, a lot of stuff for drag racing, building these things for their cage and doing things with drag racing. Go talk to him. So Henry's like, okay. So we went over there and talked to Chris, and I'm like, I'm going to tell you, first and foremost, I'm going to be the big skeptic of an aluminum seat that you're going to have. You have to prove to me of wondering, where is that energy going that I'm going to, what's absorbing that energy now that I'm going to be sitting on a solid pan? He said, okay, I'll show you. I don't have no problem with that. He showed me sled tests and, Ford, side impacts of taking, Indy cars and things taking like 60, 70, 80 G sideways. I was like, yeah, but you got to understand is, you're taking a side impact. We're taking a lateral straight down. Our spines are compressing. We're taking to that. How can you incorporate that into what we're doing? He says, I could just reverse it. He said, that's not a problem. So he fitted me for a seat. And I think Casey Kane's seat is the one that I sat in at the time in his shop. And he gave me the first ISP seat, took it out in the field, and we had to do a little bit of modification because, the right side head restraint was like way longer than the left. So we kept cutting them back to where he felt comfortable and everything like that, and got the standard head restraint system right and everything. And that's where it was at. I ran one a whole year. The company would only let me do it and test it at the time. And then from there on, they just started letting people do them. And that's where we're at today is, those guys are, that's where we're at, and now that I was away from the company some and got, moved home, and Dustin Brown took over a lot of that, man, and kudos to him because he really worked with Chris. And, with, unfortunately, the passing of Chris and him having to sell his company kind of things kind of went a little bit awry with ISP. And, which kind of stings. Chris was the kind of guy that you could call him. I could call him anytime and say, hey, man, we need this, or, hey, call Cheech. Cheech needs some help with the seat. He needs some help. You need to call him. I could give him Cheech's number and he'd call you and tell you, hey, what do you need? I'll send it to you. And that was the kind of guy he was. And it was great to, get started with that and be a part of it. Then I guess LaJoy come in with some seats and some different things like that. I know. And, now Butler's back into a lot of people like the Butler because of the foam. But, we had some safety things with them back at, the failed things that, we still feel that the ISP is still the best containment seat that you can get for a monster for what we do. But, it's all about what people want and what they feel and what they think. So,
yeah, I have one of those LaJoy seats in the ammunition truck that I drove. And
yeah,
I tell you what, I haven't had an ISP. I have sat in a Butler. I have fell asleep in one in the World Finals while waiting for the parade to get over with.
yeah.
But with the LaJoy, though, this weekend was kind of the first time I was allowed to kind of set sail, free the truck a little bit. And there was a couple jumps that I took that was pretty, I'd say super high, but kind of, the moon and back, not going to Jupiter like you did with World Finals 9. But, I landed and I had a pretty good side slap at one time. And I'm be honest with you, I'm not sore. I mean, the only thing that really has been bugging me is somehow I got lucky enough to get some sunburn right here on my shoulders. And
that's the biggest thing of why I was looking at a containment seat. If you ever had a wide, when we used to drive our wide housing trucks without one, and you took that side hit, land, side, man, that's the worst whip and take you will ever would have ever done ever with a wide house. A narrow's not as bad, but man, a wide housing truck would whip I mean, it literally felt like your eyeballs fell out. I mean, they were rough. They were really rough. But it's, yeah, we've had a bunch of, different things, seats recovery, the recovery foam on the bottom. And, now we have Aaron is, down, he used to work for Simpson and be really good friends with Chris and things like that, and I think they're trying to get into, possibly building their own seats now for them and different things, and hopefully bringing it back, and I notice a lot too, it's all in the way you mount the things too, different shoulder restraints, different things. It has to be mounted properly. You just can't throw it in there and everything's got to be straight. You got to kind of know the geometry of it, and what Chris and I came up with and it worked. And unfortunately, it's kind of got away from it a little bit, with different things, but it's still way better than what we ever had for sure.
Well, you look at, even with safety, you look at what happened this past weekend with John Force at the NHA Virginia Nationals. Look at, what happened with, the safety that's happened since Eric Medlin's passed. And that's the only reason I'd say that John Force survived that crash this past weekend. And I know that the Force team runs ISP in their dragsters and funny cars.
Yeah.
It really shows how good quality that ISP makes. And I bet, but when you went to Butler, I bet now they're kicking themselves like, man, look at the opportunity we could have had, at the beginning in the monster truck industry that, ISP has,
Yeah. And that was the one thing too, man. When I very first met, Chris, he was a big part of, he does a lot of the seat pours for, a lot of the NHRA teams, whether if you see the other stuff on their side, things for the, if they head at the roll cage or different things, because they have to have a certain distance because of the shake of the motor on those things. They're direct mounted, kind of like what we are. Granted, you want to try to have it as close as you possibly can to it's just like jumping off of a step. You jump off one step, you're fine. You jump off a 30-foot story, it's different. If you slow your acceleration down, the impact is going to be way better. When he was very, very instrumental after the death of Eric Medlin's, thing, because I guess the tire shake is what really did Eric Medlin in. And for him, what they say was the tire shake is what did it. But, so yeah, man,
They said his head was like a paint can.
Yeah, it said that, I guess it's the same thing as like shaking baby syndrome. It's like you got a flat plate part, and you can got the scar. Sometimes babies have it like here, like his scar from where his brain shook in his head was like almost all the way to the back of his brain where it shook his head so much in his tire shake. But so yeah, man, it's been awesome to be a part of that. Some of them I see, even Angelina this year, Cody come to him. He said, "Hey, can you come help her? She's been having problems with her belts and different things." And of course, I call Dustin to make sure everything's okay with that. And of course, they know it's okay for me to, do things. And man, helping her in DC, she was way better at DC and different things like that. Her belts were not quite low enough to make her Hans work, and different things of that sort. And it helped her out. Me and Brad got the seat cut down and to where it would help, and changes some different things over. So it's people still can come to me and do things. I don't mind helping them and doing it for them. And I'm all about making sure everybody's safe, because God knows I've been in some pretty bad crashes and been beat up pretty rough myself in the day.
So let's go and talk about, a couple of people were talking about how their favorite gravedigger look, and it was a ghost gravedigger. You ran that for a while with 14, but we're going back, because when I think about gravedigger, I think of 20. So go and talk about the story about, how it all came forward, where, Dennis got hurt, and then they made you go and drive 20. The seat was different. It was totally Dennis's truck, but you rocked the house that night, filling in for Dennis Anderson in a last second pinch. Talk about that day.
Yeah, we come in there and doing that deal. I just helped Dustin drive the semi up there to Minneapolis. And I think that's the same weekends that they were trying to do the whole racing radio thing where you could rent the radios like NASCAR and talk to the driver, listen in kind of thing. I'm pretty sure it was. And, Dennis was made it too. And he was talking, I think, to Scott on the mic. And then he didn't realize it was his turn to go. And he was getting ready to clock down on thing. And Dustin's yelling, telling him to go. And, and he ends up pinching his shoulder blade in the back. And, we thought maybe because he had we all were still running beard seats at the time. And so we thought that the seat broke. So we were taking the seat apart, doing whatever. We're like, oh, we don't see anything wrong with it. We don't see nothing wrong with it. We're like, what do you want to do? Billy's just like there. He's like, get in it and drive it. I'm like, what? He's like, get in it and go. I was like, okay. So we're trying to move the pedals as fast as we can, and I think we got the brake right, but I was using the toe strap of the throttle pedal, just barely pushing it with my foot at the time with it. And, the first hit I did was jumping the bus, I think, with it. And then I had, like, halfway through the thing, I heard a pop and something smacking on the I thought it blew the tire off the rim, or the rim or something was messed up. And all it was part of the car was stuck in the rim, slapping the side of the body. And I got stopped, and I could have kept going the whole time. I thought that's all it was. But I thought I blew the tire off the rim, but it was when you see the video, it's just a piece of the car that slapped the side of the body, and it never had nothing. I was like, oh, well. It was fun while it lasted.
We were talking about his freestyle run filling in for Dennis in Minneapolis.
Okay. So this past year, you've been with Team Overboard. This has been Team Overboard month, as we've been calling it. And how did that deal come about to drive Overboard in the Arena Series?
Yeah, Steve and I had always had a bunch of shows and stuff together, and then they were just trying to get into where they could keep somebody a little bit more with the trucks more, and help Bobby drive. Because, Bobby was doing it all. He's driving a semi and doing different things like that and staying. And that's totally understandable by 100% means of what they were doing, and coming in, and being with his dad and doing those things like that. Tommy was awesome. Man, I love that guy. I always have. Miss him still to this day. Was there when he was with different things. But, and then I just got asked, I said, when somebody asked me, he's like, so what's your deal with Steve and them? And it's like, well, I don't know yet. And they're like, well, was there anybody you wouldn't drive for? I was like, nah. I mean, yeah, it might be, but I don't know, right? But so then I just got a call from Cole, and it's like, hey, we got an opening spot you'd be interested in. And I was like, yeah, sure. What's it going to be? And then, talked a few days, and Jamie called and offered me the deal. And I'm like, sure, man. He said, well, I'm building you a brand new truck. And we had a body that we were supposed to debut, a different style thing, before first quarter. And, it would have been a pretty awesome deal, which, I would have hated to have crashed it. Not sure. It might be Evansville. We might end up showing that thing off. I'm not sure yet. Haven't talked with him about it to see. But we ended up wasn't going to make it in time for the yearbook. So we decided to just do a red Overboard. And which, I'm old school too. I've always liked the old school Chevy pickups, old Ford style. So it fit me perfect anyway. So that's how it came about, and, Zach and I had a great time. We worked our asses off, man. Ain't no doubt about it. Our crew guy walked off in the middle of the show, that one in Providence, I guess, and the motor and thing and just different stuff. And then it was just him and I. And then it's just him. I hated it for him to be out on the road having to fix two trucks or whatever. But yeah, it turned out to be pretty awesome.
And then halfway in the season, you got Elvis in. So that was a really big help, and for a while, it was early on for the season for you compared to Zach, where you already had a new body already on your truck. When it came down almost Salina, California, you were driving convertible Overboard. But with those trucks and how they are, I know the chassis are a little bit similar to what you had in the Gravedigger, but the wide housing though, and everything like that with that truck, the handling had to be just a tad bit different.
Well, being used to having a wide housing, and then getting away from it. Steve's trucks had wide housings under them as well. So I was used to still having that back, still having the wide housing stuff too. But, Yeah, I mean those trucks, they're a little bit heavier. I talked with Eddie about it because man, I struggle with doing my moonwalks and my stoppies in that truck for some reason, and he said he had a little bit different center of gravity and some things with it because I was like, I just couldn't get my timing down, and that was the one thing I hate it for myself because I'm a very competitive person internally, and I struggled with that when I very first started with Steve's truck because he always ran an open in the front, never run a locker, and he had 24-volt rear steering. And I just could not get that down. And I come in the trailer just fit throwing, and Tommy's like, what do you want me to do? I was like, dude, ain't nothing. It's not the truck, it's me. I just hate that I can't get it down, and it drives me insane that it's not me. The company would throw me in a truck at a World Finals of never sitting in a truck ever before, and knowing I could go out there and perform with it. And it's like, yeah, I hated that I couldn't do my stoppies with that thing because I just couldn't get my timing down. But yeah, I mean the truck ran awesome. The motor I had the first few weeks there before we started having all those problems with motors, man. That thing was on point. I was like, man, this is awesome. But yeah, so was a good time.
And then you get the invite to do the last chance qualifier at the World Finals, and you get to compete on that with Jamie there, your boss, Mark Hall, so many other people. How was that opportunity, and getting to drive that crazy track before all the insanity on that Saturday?
Yeah, I always was wondered about how the burns would play out. I struggled with it there at the practice qualifying, but I just knew in practice. But I think I was testing my limits more than anything and see how hard I could throw the truck into that burn versus trying to ride up it. And then when it come to the qualifying thing, I just needed to make 2 good clean passes, and I did. I think I was like 6 or something like that, I think. So it wasn't bad, but yeah, to be invited to that and to be known for that, I'm like you're gonna like me, like you're asking me, out of all the other, young kids, some deserve, why, me really. So I mean, I appreciate it, no doubt. Thank you very much. I mean, it was awesome to be able to do that again. But I think I heard John say it was 2017. I think was the last World Finals I was able to compete at. But so yeah, I mean it was a pretty cool event thing to do. So
And we were skipping a little bit. We talked about Gravedigger, and we talked about this team Stonecrusher and Overboard. But I mean, let's talk about the truck that was you debuted some awesome Monster Jam trucks, and one of them was Alien Invasion. I remember seeing that in the 2016 season. And and you drove that, and you carried the ball with it a while until you stepped down on the seat in one season. But still, I mean, debuting some new identities and try to create your own had to be some type of a thrill doing that, and trying to make something that someone else created the idea and take a ball with it and try to make it a fan favorite.
yeah, absolutely. When I got the call about them downsizing a number of Gravedigger trucks that they were wanting to have, and and things like that, and they wanted me to do the Alien Invasion thing. I was like, oh, okay, hey, it's me, it's mine, it's my new identity, it's something that I can take into the finals and do things with and stuff. So yeah, it was pretty neat, and the different stuff and the light system and just doing things. People were attracted to that, and hang out at the pit parties and see the lights. And that thing actually had, I think, like 400 different scenarios of lights that it could do on it, I think. But they always wanted to stay on the green because when I very first got it, I would change it, every so often. I would have it in my seat, when I was doing a pit party, and it would change it. And they would, you could get it to chase it around the truck. You could get it to build up. It could do different things in different colors. So, there were people standing around waiting to see what was going on with that thing. And then we just, then it was just decided just to keep it at green and for it to stay on one mode. So,
and that truck, has been around for a long time. And, I agree with Cheats. Like, it's such a cool looking truck. And, what, was like, as I know the fans liked it, but what, was what trying to get the words out properly. Come on, Brad. The initial fan response to that, because, the 3D body trucks have always kind of been sometimes hit and miss. We've seen some that have been like, holy crap, that thing's awesome. And then some were like, What was like the fan reaction to when that first came out? What were people saying to you?
Yeah, I think everybody liked it, and I think the light thing was the big thing. Is the I took it to Australia with me, and we did a whole thing of Australia over there with it, and there was somebody that was at the World Finals from Australia. I think I was in Adelaide. I still got the picture of it. They're at this big green alien standing beside the truck before the pit party, taking pictures with it, and we were in Adelaide, Australia, where they were at. So yeah, I mean, it was pretty cool. You even take it international and you were seeing it, but. Yeah, I mean, everybody seemed to really respond to it. I think after that first year, we added another stream of lights so you could really see it from the stands and things. So, yeah, I think it seemed to do pretty well.
Yeah, this is my last question before we ask about the social media stuff. And, how was it driving that alien invasion kind of like a canopy or a cockpit of a fighter jet where everyone, even though the truck had its body on it, you're more visible to the fans, not invisible, but visible to the fans compared to like driving a Gravedigger where you have the artwork and everything like that, and you're kind of a little bit hidden. While Alien Invasion, you pretty much were surrounded by Lexan.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing. I don't think we ever got any kind of lights inside of it. I don't think we ever quite did that to that truck yet, but yeah, I mean, that was the thing. Like, you're wide open, everybody's like, oh, you can see really well, but the hood was the old Iron Man hood, so I had that big headlight out there on the end that was a little bit different for me. But yeah, you definitely can see. It's almost sometimes when the bodies come off, it almost makes you a little sketchy to know that you're not protected as much, of what coming around. But it's like, yeah, I like to, people could see me in there and I could see them, and I could wave easier than trying to, get my hands out the windows with that, with the ISP and stuff like that, trying to get your arms out. But
I thought you were gonna do the social media thing there, Cheech.
No.
Sorry.
That's your turn if you have one more question.
Yeah, actually, the last question will be it's a fan question. I don't know if you asked this one earlier, Cheech. Guy by the name of Devin Treat saying, what it was your favorite Gravedigger look, like favorite scheme, throughout the history of Gravedigger?
Honestly, man, I like that chrome body that Dennis ran that time. That thing was pretty awesome. I mean, you talk about the flame, the Ghost One Mountain that he ran that whole time, and then I ran some of it. Dennis has, I think he has, since he has the museum, I know he had that whole body that he was looking for, and hanging up in a dungeon, and he had everything but the door. And I can tell you, I know where the door is at. So, but it's like, I have the door to that truck, to that thing. And I think he knows I had it back a long time ago. And he's like, okay, well, since I know where it's at, I guess it's okay since you run it for the summertime. But yeah, I think that chrome Gravedigger probably would be, even though I never ran it, that thing was pretty freaking awesome.
Actually, I lied. That was not my last question. This was it. But
yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah. Okay. But for like the 14, how was it driving, the Ghost one, because that was a unique body. That was on 20. They were trying to, make an updated look to the Gravedigger, but the following the year after that, Dennis drove the traditional, purple, green. You'd see the change from 97 to, that time. But they put the Ghost Gravedigger body on your truck, and you campaigned that for quite some time.
Yeah, and too, we always had a lot of our Gravedigger trucks had the different roof on it, decal on it. Some of us had a Grim Reaper, some of us had a skull. They are all a little different. I don't know if a lot of people knew that or not, but yeah, like I had a different one. Each one of us had a little one that was a little bit different roof on it, on what we had. I think I always campaigned the Grim Reaper. I think some of the other ones had like the skull. Some of them had a different color skull and different things like that. But yeah, the roof sticker on a couple of us was a little bit different. But Yeah, I mean, there's not much difference in, the body's still going to be, it's going to be what it be most of the time for us. And sometimes it lasts a while, sometimes it doesn't.
I think that's kind of interesting with the roofs. It kind of differentiates each driver. So if people were aware, like, oh, that's Chad's digger, or oh, that's Randy's digger, or like, I think that's really cool. And I'm actually, like, when I watch old footage, I'm actually going to kind of keep my eye out for that and see which truck I can identify. I
Yeah,
think
we
it's neat.
really started that out, kind of the first part of the first quarter parts of it. A lot of them, then once we started getting body switched around in different pieces, I think maybe some of that got a little bit lost. But yeah, most of us, back then we weren't allowed to have our names on the trucks or anything of that sort, so they could differentiate us with that. It's mainly just by the number on the hood is how you had to look as close as you could to say, oh, that's his truck. Or, Pablo always had the red stuff and things like that. His chassis was a little bit more easier to figure out versus the rest of our stuff. But Patrick's are, Carroll chassis.
So is there any social media people can follow you at?
Yeah, I mean, it's just mainly just at my name, at AOL and some stuff like that. And, and just, that's all I really have. I don't have any Twitter stuff or any of that kind of thing. So,
Yeah, same thing. I don't have Twitter, but I do have Instagram.
yeah.
Dan MT Dan Agosh 28. Facebook Dan Cheech Agosh. Also my RC page Agosh is Racing, RC Racing on Instagram and on Facebook, and also Crush This is on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, and YouTube. So go take a look at that. Want to let you know also that next week's guests, I have two, will be Mr. Chad's former teammate, Mr. Frank Krimmel, and Alex Barden. So we're going to have the Stone Crusher team on next week. And then week after that, possibly, I believe it's going to be a first time we ever interviewed a mega mud truck driver, Brad Novak, in a ballistic mud truck. So that's in the next couple weeks. But yeah, so Brad, how about you?
Yeah, you can follow me at the only Monster Truck Canucker on Instagram and other social media. Follow me to see, picker truck shenanigans, my daily job, running a 40-ton and 18-ton picker truck with my old man. And next show I'm going to be at, it's Monster Jam in Edmonton, going to be crewing for the Team Throttle guys, which will be a fun time. And, even though I'm going to be in the Oilers barn, it's not going to, it still stings, okay? It still stings that they lost.
Darren Palin was an announcer. I don't know if you know.
I love Darren. I've done a lot of shows with that man.
I've done so many Canadian shows over my career, probably more than anybody still in Monster Jam or Monster Truck history doing it. And I used to pick on. I love Darren, and we used to pick on him all the time about different things. It's like, why is you guys say the hockey's a Canadian thing, but why is it always American teams that always win?
Because Gary Bettman.
I get him so fired up, man. I loved him. I haven't seen him forever, man. He was awesome.
You do any shows in Edmonton back in the day?
Oh gosh, dude, I lived there. That in Calgary, Winnipeg. I mean, I've done so many of those. I've had to drive from Calgary across the Canadian Rockies or somewhere over to Winnipeg because I had my paperwork messed up of coming in and out there in Montana and had to drive across over to Winnipeg. And I was like, oh Lord. But yeah, I've done a lot up there. It's been a while since I've been there, so.
My last question. What do you think of Tim Hortons?
Double.
I'm not a breakfast, donut person or whatever like that. I mean, it's the same thing as a Dunkin' Donuts to me. I mean, they're all the same, but donut's a donut.
Man, Chad, thank you so much for being on, and I do appreciate it. I believe as of right now, if anyone is curious to see Chad this summer, he will be in Evansville, Indiana for the 4-H Monster Truck Smash that's happening there, a stack lineup, and be fun to do some outdoor racing, huh there, Chad?
Yeah, man, it's been a while. Like I said, me and Carl did a lot of that stuff back in the day, a lot of speedways, man, and I loved it. It's always been one of those things. There's one place I need to try to check off my bucket list somehow, and that is West Lebanon Valley. I've been able to do the Charlotte Motor Speedway. It's been on my bucket list forever. I did awesome there. It rained. It didn't do so well there because of the mud. The second year, I was the second fastest qualifier and was headed to the finals, and the motor blew up on me again, and I haven't been back. But West Lebanon Valley is one of those speedways that I want to get to one of these days before I can't do this no more. So,
Ryan, did you hear that? You do the Monsters versus Megas, not Monsters and Megas, but Monsters versus Megas in West Leb. Hey, we got a guy that's willing to do the show, and
yeah.
you need a fill-in driver, he can do it. But
Yeah.
man, Chad, thank you for being on, and
But
thank you for coming.
Yeah, man, absolutely, man. It was a great year with you guys. We're racing with you guys again. You and Kurt and all those guys, man. It was a great year, man.
Awesome. Well, hopefully we'll see you next year and see you around.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
All right, that was Chad Tingler right there, guys. You want to go ahead and talk about Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
That it's just having Chad on was pretty cool, but we talked about Monsters and Megas, Monsters versus Megas. We are doing talk about Monsters and Megas, Monsters versus Megas later this year in West Leb. It's pretty cool to see that. Man, yeah, sure. I'll talk. I normally don't talk about the shows and stuff like that, but this was kind of a big deal for me. Going to my hometown, it wasn't really a hometown. I mean, I'm 20 minutes away from there in Wellsburg, West Virginia.
It's still your
Pittsburgh,
hometown.
Pennsylvania Motor Speedway is in Imperial, PA, just outside Pittsburgh. The show couldn't ask for anything better. I mean, yeah, it'd been awesome to win some stuff, and that'd be along in the future. But for me, only driving right now 8th. So coming into that show would have been number 7 and number 8. So really, technically, me behind the wheel of a monster truck. Yeah, I did car crashes and stuff like that, but it's nothing like racing. This racing, learning about it helps me with car crashes to know what I can turn. I'll go full throttle or back her down to a point of doing car crashing. Some people think it's like riding a bike, but for me, I mean, having the gap of not driving from October to May, it does get to you. Just trying to get back in the flow of things and trying to, basically learning when, the people that do drive the same time that you drive is now at show 25 and show 30. And when I say show, that's even driving car crashes. I still haven't reached those situations yet. So I'm still trying to learn on, driving the truck, still respecting the truck. Just need a little bit more seat time, still more seat time and stuff like that. Just got to have those chances to do it and all that stuff. So anyway, going to this event, the track was wide open. It was a roller car set, then another car set, kind of like 2 mounds of dirt afterwards. We had myself, Montana Robbins in Playing Crazy, Trenton Robbins in Crazy Train, Lloyd Fitchett, I can't pronounce his last name, Twitchell, in behind,
something like that.
Yeah, behind bars. Alex Barden in Stone Crusher, and Mr. Frank Krimmel in Hooked, which I am doing off topic. I am releasing this information starting July 1st, 31 helmets, 31 days. So I have drivers throughout the whole day. I'm going to post pictures every day of drivers' helmets. The Zach Garner story was pretty cool, so I'm going to repost that. That's going to be the day number 1 is Mr. Zach Garner's helmet that he had this season, especially in the World Finals. And then we go on for different stories of helmets and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. So
I just had an idea.
What?
How about we do once all the pictures are done? How about we do a bracket challenge?
You do
and
that.
who has the best helmet of them all?
I guess we could do that in August.
It was just an idea that popped in my brain as you were saying that. That's if people want to know what ADHD brain is like, that's it.
Chad was talking. We were finishing up with the Pittsburgh race. Yeah, we were just finishing up with the Pittsburgh race, Chad, if you're watching this. So we'll be here cutting off here soon. But we had all those guys, so we'll be on the lookout for the 31 helmet deal. Well, yeah, maybe in August we'll do that. We'll do a tournament bracket on helmets and stuff like that, or in general or something. But yeah, so we had Mega Mud Trucks 2, a cool looking mega truck called the Sarge. It's a 1952 Chevy Suburban.
Bourbon.
The difference between a panel wagon and a Suburban is Suburban has windows, a panel wagon doesn't. Van doesn't, stuff like that. So we started out doing our intro and stuff like that. Another thing that was pretty cool was the Nightmare 2 replica monster truck was there. The guy who built that also built the first Nightmare, rebuilt the first Nightmare truck from Steve Hess that was rebuilt, was awesome. So we had racing the first night, made it to the finals, Brad. But I'm going to be up front and real to you. I lost every single round. I felt like Dennis Anderson, 1989, Richmond, Virginia. He made it to the finals and didn't win a single lick, but he won. Trent and Crazy Train blew a crankshaft, so he was out throughout the show. They had changed the motor, getting ready for Sunday. First two races was actually with Montana. And then something happened, I think, with Montana's rear steer. He couldn't get the truck back and running. Something happened. I came in and lined up against Alex. I kept on getting faster and faster throughout the night. This time, Alex beat me by truck, which was all right with me. And then Freestyle came along, and I did a dumb move. And after the third hit, so let me back up and say this, that I was inside the cab, and I thought the crew guys said, the tech officials told the crew guys, don't do donuts on the front straightaway. It's like, okay, well, I guess I'll do the donuts in the infield. Well, that racetrack, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania Motor Speedway, has a history of not grooming the track, like, tilting the track and putting moisture in there and stuff like that, materials. They just leave it dry. Like, leave the track as it is. So the track is extremely dry. And they have occasionally water the track and stuff like that. Well, they don't mess around with the infield, so that's a dry. I was like, oh, maybe they did. I'll do donuts infield. Well, I did the donut close to turn 1 and turn 2 of the donuts. And I cranked one up, got some good air and some jumps, but I dusted myself out. I couldn't see anything. I had an abandoned ship on the freestyle. The freestyle wasn't what I wanted to do. Had maybe one good extra jump, but the rest of it was, the dust and everything was terrible. So I went ahead and canceled, the rest of the run. Montana won freestyle that day, and Alex won racing. Then the next day, got the truck all ready to go. We're having fun. I was versing Frank Krimmel, and I was keeping up with him. I was not ahead of him, but I was kind of tied with him. And then out of nowhere, the kind of, I was trying to jump over the one set of cars, the back end clipped the right, and then I kind of off kiltered, and I almost went on two wheels, and I had back up and finished the run. Too tired, but still tried to do it from there. And then I had a pretty, to me, my best freestyle that I have done to date. Outside of that, I thought of the one in Enith, Oklahoma was okay, but this one was a good one. I had 4 big jumps and 1 side slap, to a point where the tires popped but reseated themselves for me to continue on. And the winner, The truck was loaded up in the trailer. No damage, no nothing. To my knowledge, the truck went in the trailer with its own power. That's perfectly fine with me. So I learned so much. I'm still trying to do seat time, but I had so much fun. It was awesome to do that. My best friends, Andy, that helped, was invited by
PA
Tim.
posse.
The PA posse. The crew, he crewed. Chris was the pit official to send me out. Kevin staged me. Being friends with so many people. Me and Montana were just BSing, laughing, having a good time with me and him with Playing Crazy. We were talking and BSing during the intros and stuff like that. He came over and kept on saying, "Burn it down, burn it down." Bob
Seth Rollins or something.
Yeah, Bob was just freaking making me laugh. He was up there. He says, "Cheech, there's 2 gears in that monster truck." Or he's like, "Cheech, that sucked." He just laughed. Or he was trying to be my nutritionist, and he's like, "You're becoming fat." I was like, "Bob, you're fat too." And he's like, "Well, I haven't hit that age." And then I tell him he's gonna be a new future Monster Jam MJU teacher, and he just laughed and all that stuff. But still talking to Alex, hanging out with Alex, BSing with Frank. Lloyd too. I mean, everyone together, and then start chatting with some of the Mega Truck guys. Those guys are cool cats. We're gonna have Brad on 2 weeks from now. He has the ballistic truck. He won freestyle Saturday night. He won racing Sunday with that the Mega Truck division. So we're gonna have him on in 2 weeks. That's gonna be cool to talk about and stuff like that. And Mega Truck side of it, and the kind of the weekend warrior type deal. Kind of remind me of the stock car class they would see at the local dirt track, or someone with a nice
Like
late model
drag
car,
racing kind of thing.
well, late model modified. Still, they look something that you would see on TNN, but see them on the Saturday night or Friday night dirt track type scene. So that'd be pretty cool to see and stuff like that. But I still tell today, even if long front, if I ever won the World Finals or won Charlotte or some type of big event, I would still put this event in my top 5 of my career moment. Just not just outside of being home, just having fun and having a good time and laid back, and just the truck did everything I asked it to, and I think the truck was more disappointed that I didn't push it more. But that's another time, another place for that to happen. I'm not. That's being. I'm me and the truck's getting respectable, and I also believed in a strong point that I showed that I respect Mark and Tim Hall's equipment.
Yeah.
I think they have seen that I can handle that. And I'm to a point where, I'm thinking to myself, okay, the apple's in the bag, next to sandwich, next to juicy juice, and then you better bring your lunch bag.
I was waiting for that.
The lunchbox panda is on its way. You better start packing. Type of feel, and I kind of like that going on. But for me, the next show as of right now with the Monster Truck Race is July 24th, the Champaign County Fair at the Champaign Fair in Champaign, Illinois. As of right now, it's going to be us 3 trucks. It's a final decision. Mark is a guaranteed with Raminator, but we'll find out if I will be in Hotsy or Rammunition. If I'll be in Rammunition, Kurt will be in Hotsy. If I be in Hotsy, Kurt will be in Rammunition type deal. We're right now finalizing the deal for 2 other trucks. So as of right now, I know they're 2 Monster Jam trucks, not independent wise, Monster Jam trucks that will be at the show. So it'd be cool to have them there and do the show there. And then as of right now, there could be a few more shows. Maybe Michigan. But I know I have one in Arkansas confirmed in August. So we'll see how that goes and everything like that. And but yeah, I mean that just the fans watching the videos of the fans cheering me on, which was pretty cool. Friends that I went to high school with, college. Shout out to Lindsay King and her husband Steven. Good friends. Love those family to death. They got themselves a Pacifica. Shout out Chrysler. Yeep yeep. They're doing Tim and Tune In on Tuesday. Let people know that you get 90 days up front if you got yourself a Ram truck in select models, and also with Hotsy, you buy one heating Hotsy pressure washer, you get a cold one for free. So that's some deals going on right there. So shout out to that. But
Those are some damn good deals.
oh yeah, so go there to your Ram and Hotsy dealer and get some cool deals going on right now. But still, I can't the feeling and everything like that's so freaking awesome.
Yeah.
So for them, the family been there. I know I took Lindsay to prom our senior year, so that's pretty cool seeing if going there. And um, Kevin always mentioned it came full circle. I do a monster truck show, and one of the places I've been to that Thursday also went to Rosedale Technical Institute in the same town. I hope they had people interested. I hope they got people to look at the school, maybe pick up some new recruits. I know the problem with the Pittsburgh show this weekend was last year Monster Trucks with a Z was there and ruined the show with high prices, poor trucks, um, terrible track. The weather didn't help out either. So what hurt us was a lot of the fans that went to Pittsburgh were telling people not to go to this show because they thought it was the same exact show, which wasn't. And then weather was bad. It was in 90s, high 90s throughout the weekend. It was still like your high 70s on the nights and stuff like that. So um, we hopefully it will make up everything going on there. But for me, with the team right now, we will be at Lexington, Kentucky this weekend. One Saturday night, one Sunday afternoon for Monster Jam. Caleb Blood and Smarkle Smash, Kristen Anderson and Gravedigger, Tristan England and Digatron, and Armando and El Toro. With us is Zach Garner in the Wild Side and Jamie Garner in Overboard. So they will be there at Lexington. And then we have a cool car show, firefighting place, I think like 3 hours south of here, the ride truck. Then we have Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania for the 4-wheel drive jamboree. That's coming back from the being like the Phoenix coming out from the ashes.
Yeah.
See how that goes with that truck lineup. Pretty good lineup with the Dirt Crew and War Wizard. And then we're going to have Brandon with Bad News Travels Fast. And then JR with playing hooky. So, and much more. So that's going to be cool to have too. So a lot of action-packed action this month, these next couple weeks. So
Yeah.
once again, thank you for everyone that has been on. What I experienced. The video is up on our Facebook page. Tractor Head 04 was actually the one that filmed it. Jeremy, cool cat. Met some people like Justin, Andrew, Jeremy, Eric, all these cool cats and stuff like that. Thank you again for what you guys had done. But yeah, man, I will never forget this weekend. To a point where I will honor it every year just because of how cool it was.
Yeah.
So thank you again. Also the Hall Brothers Racing, and also Never Lift Motorsports for allowing me to do what I do, the respect the equipment, and trusting me to put on a good show and performance. For one last time beforehand, there's the wallpaper. I'm going to try to keep that. I have some of that wallpaper, and it's pretty cool stuff. Even though that mega mud truck that's wanted on the poster was not there. So, or maybe it was a different body. I don't know. Maybe Ethan will know about that. But, man, I tell you what, one learning experience, and so excited about that, uh, about that jazz. But once again, guys, it was pretty cool, and uh, I can't express it enough for the opportunity that I have, and and thank you, Brad, for even showing the love for that, even though you're from far. But it was cool for you seeing what is
Oh
going
yeah.
on, but one
Like
step at a time.
like I told you even before we got on, I'm so proud of you, dude. Like, you and me, like, and I'll be honest, like you and me have been through a lot of ups and downs doing this. We've we've butted heads with each other, but I love you like a brother, man, and I'm so proud of you. And I've never, I hope one day I can drive in my hometown, but I've done a lot of shows here where I live. I consider this my hometown. I was born somewhere else, but I was been raised here in Grand Prairie, Alberta. I've been able to stage trucks in the arena I've watched a lot of hockey games at and concerts at, and doing stuff with the when you're able to do your passion in your hometown, it's such a insane feeling. You know what I mean? Like, obviously this upcoming weekend for you guys is going to be the 4th of July weekend. It's going to be Canada Day weekend for us here in Canada. I get to be in the parade with my church playing drums, something else I love to do, like being able to do stuff in your hometown that you have a passion about is such a damn cool feeling, man.
It is, and like I said, it's within the top 5 of my favorite memories of monster trucking, and I won't never take that away. And but for next week,
at least you didn't fall over hockey dashes in your hometown, though.
Sometimes you have to be popular in something on YouTube.
Yep.
But I mean, like I said, next week we're gonna have Alex Barton and Frank Krimmel. So Hooked and Stonecrusher for next week's episode.
Yep. And some cool news for me. I don't know when it's coming out, but late last month, early this month, I was able to record drums on a album for in my church. My worship leader is recording an album on her own, and she asked me and both my wife to play on it. My wife plays violin. So when that releases, I will let people know. It's so cool to be able to do that. Wanted to announce that here. And, like as we always say, on the end of the show, check in on your friends and family. Mental health is important. I have this on my arm. It says, I deserve to survive, to remind me every day, that to keep pushing forward. Mental health is one of the biggest battles that anybody can go through. Obviously cancer is worse, but mental health is a very important one. And, it's something that's always been on my heart. It'll always be on my heart. And just check in on somebody, message me or Cheech. I've messaged Cheech so many times if I'm going through a rough patch, and Cheech talks to me, gives me good ideas, gives me good advice.
Don't push me because I'm close to the edge. I'm trying not to lose my head. Ha ha ha.
But guys, also prayers up to Mr. 16X, Mr. John Force. As you guys seen, he went through a really bad crash this weekend. Prayers up to him. That was hard for me to watch. I'm a huge John Force fan, if you know. And
I thought you were more of a Ron Caps guy.
No. I respect him, but I'm a Force fan. Diehard. But guys, next week, as Cheech said, we have Alex Barton and Frank Krimmel on. Frank's been on a couple times throughout the years with the roundtables that we did. Alex, I think it's his first time on. I got to meet up at World Finals with Elvis. It was cool to talk to him for a little bit. And that'll be next week, guys. So, as we always say, since day one on this show, keep the rubber side down and the shiny side up, everybody.